So hello everyone, my name is Magnus Rylander. I'm joined today by two of my colleagues in the Spotfire product management team, Miguel and Thomas. Today we are going to present what's new in Spotfire 11. We have a lot of things to cover in this session, so let's get started right away. Let's start with the business context. Companies continue to optimize their operations and processes. They try to enable everyone in the organizations to make better decisions based on data. This means that less analytics savvy users are impacted. Many business decision makers are not used to or comfortable with point and click visual analytics using standard BI charts in dashboards. To enable them to benefit from analytics, we have to make analytics more consumable and more contextual for the business users. This will require applications that combine data science and visual analytics into an easy-to-consume user experience. The need of enterprises are shaping the market and causing visual analytics and data science to converge. In addition to combining visual analytics and data science, TIBCO's hyper-converged analytics adds real time to the seamless experience. With Spotfire 11, we respond to the market needs by enabling the creation of custom analytic applications built with components that let users view data in a way that is most suitable and familiar to their domain, which makes it faster, which makes it easier for business users to consume analytics and make data-driven decisions. Customized recommendations and insights powered by data science can be integrated in the application and surfaced in the user's context to make it easy for users to understand and take action on the insights. Spotfire Mods is a centerpiece in realizing these applications. Spotfire Mods allows customized visualization components to be developed quickly using well-known JavaScript libraries and being built on top of Spotfire's native functionality, immersive, smart, and real-time. Spotfire Mods supports real-time visualizations out of the box. We will now walk you through all the different features in Spotfire 11, starting with Mods. So Mods is the big thing in Spotfire 11. So what is it? Essentially, it's a new framework for custom components and application building in Spotfire. It's lightweight, based on web technologies such as HTML and JavaScript. It's very easy to use, and we think it's going to boost a lot of creativity in the Spotfire community. Mods is available on all Spotfire 11 platforms, including TIBCO Cloud Spotfire, our public cloud environment. This means that Mods will be widely accessible, and the built components can be easily shared with many Spotfire users. With this first release of Mods, users can quickly build new interactive visualization types called visualization mods and use them in Spotfire like any other visualization. By connecting to any Spotfire data source and integrating with data science and other built-in Spotfire capabilities, you can create highly customized analytic applications directly within the Spotfire environment. This reduces the time to insights for analysts to get access to a rich set of specialized visualizations, purpose-built for their domain and their use cases. Interactive dashboards are easier to use and understand for business users with visualizations that are well known to them in their industry. Web developers who build analytic applications can build on Spotfire as a complete analytic platform to save time and get to market faster. So before diving more into the details of Mods, let's have a look at some examples. So this is a demo application for a clothing company's social media analysis. The use of a word card mod here provides a nicer way to display text information than perhaps a regular table plot. You can also see an example of a custom insight shown up in yellow in one of the cards. The same application also uses a network chart to analyze the relationships between different variables in the data. Here is a public transport application using a trip stop diagram that shows detailed information about the different stops along a route in a view that is familiar to the target audience. The same network chart as before, but now with more complex data produced by data science model. This shows that mods can effectively be reused with different configurations in different applications. Here's a typical dashboard example using an area chart. Mods can be purpose-built for specific industries. Here's a stock chart that is very common visualization in the finance industry. And this is the TIBCO Labs Discover app that is built on top of Spotfire and uses several mods, for example, this process map. Analysts and business users can interact with the visualization mod the way they are used to with any Spotfire visualization and do not need to know anything about how the mod was implemented. They will be instantly familiar with how to configure a mod through drag and drop, using access selectors to configure the data view, using the legend and standard visualization properties for data, appearance, and colors, using pop-up panels for other settings such as specific to that visualization type. They will also be familiar with how to interact with a mod through, for example, marking and highlighting. A mod automatically takes advantage of Spotfire's built-in brush linking and filtering, and can also react to document property changes and other events that may occur in the application. A mod is also by default integrated with common visualization workflows, such as actions on marked data or export to PDF. A mod is typically distributed as a separate file, a .mod file, that can also be embedded in a Spotfire analysis file. For developers, it may be more convenient to share mods as source code. On the TIBCO Exchange platform, TIBCO will provide a collection of mods that can be downloaded for free. This collection will include a variety of mods for different industries and use cases. Our plan is to continuously add more mods to this collection. Developers can go to the Spotfire mods GitHub repository to find a number of source code projects that they can use as templates. To start using a mod, you can simply drop the mod file to the Spotfire client. It can then be used directly in your analysis. By saving the mod to the library, you can reuse the mod in other analyses and share it with other users. The Spotfire library is a central hub for sharing mods within a Spotfire environment. With its built-in access control and folder structure, you can easily browse and search for mods shared by other users or by the organization's administrator. To have quick access to your favorite mods, you can pin them to the visualization Flyout panel, where it will be available side by side with the built-in visualizations every time you open the Spotfire client. Another benefit with sharing mods through the Spotfire library is to get what's called automatic updates. Assume we have a mod that is stored in the library, and this mod is used in a number of analysis files, perhaps created by different users. If there is now a new version available for this mod, you want that new version to be used in all the analysis without having to manually edit the files. This can be achieved automatically by just resaving the library entry with a new version. If you don't want to change the existing analysis, you can choose to save the new version of the mod as a separate library entry and have the two mod versions coexist. Spotfire mods provides an easy to use and creative development environment that should not only appeal to hardcore developers, but also to those who are a bit less experienced. A mod is built with JavaScript, HTML, CSS, etc., using a simple API to access the Spotfire data and other functionality. You can easily integrate D3, Plotly, or any other third-party JavaScript library. The development environment is integrated with Spotfire, but an external editor is used for the source code. We highly recommend using Microsoft Visual Studio Code, since our GitHub examples include predefined settings for code that enable default build tasks and IntelliSense that provides inline API help. You also need Node.js installed to enable live preview in Spotfire as you develop. So this is how it works. You open your project in Visual Studio Code and run a build task to start the local development server. Then in Spotfire, you create an empty mod and connect that to the local development server to get a live preview of the mod that you can interact with. And any changes you make in the code will be instantly reflected in Spotfire. When you're done with development, you press disconnect to embed the mod into the analysis. And you now also get the option to save the mod to a local file or to the library. And on the Spotfire mods GitHub repository, we have collected everything needed to get started with mod development, guides, tutorials, API documentation, examples, and templates. So we will now look at a very short demo on how to develop a simple mod. This example uses a basic design pattern that is typically used in any mod development. It starts by initializing the API, then subscribing to the data that the mod wants to visualize. And in the callback function, it reads the data from Spotfire and then converts the data to the format used in the external JavaScript library, in this case, Google Charts. And finally, the visualization is rendered. And as a result, we now have a simple but quite useful visualization with just a few lines of code. Okay, so an essential part of the design is to encapsulate the custom code of a mod by having it running in a sandbox iframe inside HTML of the Spotfire front end. The blue rectangle in the picture represents the area where the mod lives and where the mod developer has full control. All communication between the mod and Spotfire is done with a well-defined API, which then communicates with the Spotfire backend using Ajax and WebSocket. This design ensures that a mod that was developed for a specific version of Spotfire will work also in future Spotfire versions. Spotfire mods comes with a new trust mechanism. It's based on certificates and secure digital signing. By default, each user gets a personal certificate automatically issued by the Spotfire server. But it's also possible to sign a mod using a third-party certificate, allowing the mod to be signed with, for example, a company's signature. When a mod has been signed, any further changes to the mod code will change the hash sum of the mod, so any attempts to change the code by a third party should be detectable. When adding a new mod to Spotfire, the user gets the option to trust either that specific mod or trust all mods from that signature. In the server admin pages or the user's account page, that provides an overview of all trusts and certificates in the system or for a specific user. You can at any time revoke a trust to prevent certain mods from being used. Trusting can be done by an individual user, or it can be centrally managed by the organization's administrator. So, although the mods framework is designed to be lightweight and self-service, there is sometimes a need for central governance. Licenses and preferences specific for mods allows an organization's administrator to set up the system for different scenarios. For example, you can have a restricted scenario where only the admin can save new mods to the library, but all users can use approved mods. Another scenario could be to have only a selected group of users being allowed to trust mods for themselves and save to the library, but all users can use mods signed by the company's certificate. Or you can have a more permissive scenario where all users are allowed to trust mods for themselves. Other scenarios are possible with different configurations of the licenses. And by using group level preferences, an admin can control what mods turn up in the visualization's flyout by default for all users. So next section is data science, and I hand over to Thomas.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Thomas Blomberg, product manager for Typical Spotfire, and I'm presenting data science news, data access, and data wrangling today. This is Spotfire 11. This is the Windows client Spotfire Analyst, and I would like to start with Amazon Redshift. We have done some amazing things to the Redshift connector during the summer, and part of that is seen in the data source UI, where you can see that we have added a lot more authentication methods. We see customers and partners using a lot more types authentication, not only Windows and Kerberos anymore. And part of that is also new settings. So we have added this key value table where you also can save the values so that they're available the next time you connect to Amazon Redshift. We have also made it possible to configure basically all options in the connection string. So by manually defining your favorite settings using this table, you have virtually full control of the connection string and the connection to Amazon Redshift. So great to see that. We have seen it in the SAP HANA connector before, but now it's available in Amazon Redshift. The next feature is support for Amazon Redshift Spectrum. And Spectrum is the Redshift feature that allows you to access Amazon AWS S3. So in this example, we have the light item table, which is actually a JSON file in S3. But as a Spotfire analyst, you don't need to care too much about that. You can bring it in as a relational table as any other data. You can import it into Spotfire with a few clicks, just like that. I would also like to show you a data wrangling feature. So if we go in and add a calculated column on our imported Spectrum data, like that, you may know that it's possible to go ahead and hide columns. So maybe you don't need extended price, which my calculation was based on. So you can go in and delete it. But then Spotfire will tell you that the column you're about to delete is actually used in another column, a calculated column. So you can go in and hide that column. So what the team has done is to show that you have a hidden column in the data canvas. And notice the scroll into view feature, where it's really easy to find the column that is related to the step you're selecting. But in Spotfire 11, you're able to unhide the hidden column, just like that. And with that, the column is back. So a small but very handy data wrangling feature. All right, let's continue on Amazon Redshift and add some additional data. So let's import two other tables from another Redshift cluster and create a table. And you can see that we now have support for geographical data in Spotfire. So we can visualize polygons. And if we go in and switch to full table like that and create a map chart, we can see that we can also display tiles on a map. And this works for in-memory data, and we have mapped the geometry data type to well-known binary in Spotfire. All right, so we have a few data sets from Redshift, and what's very common in Spotfire, as you know, is to use data functions. And that's why we have added a favorites menu, basically, for data functions and the built-in statistical tools. So these are now easy to find. Business authors can find them. You can find them easily, but you can also add your favorite data functions. And we have a very handy shortcut here, find items in the library, which will provide the type column data function search term. And it will find your favorite functions, but you can also search for them. So we have, for example, the Maidenhead conversion function. And we have the super smoother that we saw in the COVID-19 dashboard. We can also view details. You can see who created it and when it was updated and so on. And you can also pin it from this menu, just like that. And then we can go back and then we see that we have added these two. Maybe you're very happy with the content of your FX flyout and would like to share it with others. Maybe you would like the whole organization to have access to the same content to make sure everyone is using the official data functions. Then you can go ahead and copy info about pinned items to the clipboard, just like that. Then you go to Tools, Administration Manager, Preferences, select your favorite user group, and then you go to Data Functions, Data Function Properties, and then you simply paste that JSON string to that property. And this means that when users part of this group logs in, they will see the same content as you do. So it's a really convenient way to have your own favorites easy to reach and also share it with the organization. All right, so let's return to the slides. And say a few words about Python data functions. Spotfire is, of course, shipped with a Python engine, but you can also use your own favorite engine. Maybe you're using Jupyter Server or Studio Server with your favorite Python engine, and you would like Spotfire data functions to use the same. Now you can do that by using the command line tool that would create a custom Python engine, SDN. So you create the SDN, you deploy to the deployment area on your server, and then it's distributed to analysts and also the Python service. So a new way of creating Python packages, but the traditional and well-proven way of distributing the engine to all your users. So you can ensure you have the same engine on your servers, on your clients, and on your Python services. All right. More Redshift. We're also certified, so we are part of the partner network on AWS. So that's great. We're really happy about that. Spectrum, spatial analytics, we saw that. Another thing we have done is we have tuned and tweaked the queries that we push to Redshift. So when you're marking row-level data using Redshift and in database connections, you will see that you can now mark more items. So in the previous Spotfire versions, you saw that we couldn't, if we marked too many items, the where clause was too big and we couldn't process the query. But in Spotfire 11, you should see that you can mark many, many more items. And when I worked on this, I actually couldn't find a data set where I couldn't mark enough values to achieve the same error. But that's certainly possible, but the limit is much higher. We also support more functions. We have mapped every single function we could find, basically, in Amazon Redshift. We looked at Google BigQuery, we used that as reference, and then we mapped as much as possible. So you can push many, many more calculations into Redshift nowadays, including binning. We have also worked with Google and GCP, so we support the 3 Google Cloud SQL sources. So MySQL, Postgres, and SQL Server are now supported. We also support the Cloud SQL proxy from Google. And this is really handy because it allows users to connect to these servers or databases as if they were installed on their local client. The proxy takes care of everything related to connectivity and security. So it makes it really easy to analyze data on these 3 clouds. And we have tested it with the proxy, and yeah, it's supported. We have also worked and continues to work with Cloudera. And you may know that Cloudera acquired Hortonworks. And from the 2 products, they created Cloudera Data Platform, CDP. And we have verified that we can support Hive on all 3 CDP deployments. So data center, on-premises, private cloud, and public cloud. And IBM has also been very busy on the Netezza side. They have renamed it slightly to Netezza Performance Server, and we made sure to support that prior to Spotfire 11, actually. But in Spotfire 11, we have added new data types, interval, var, binary, and JSON support, and we also added a whole range of new functions in Spotfire 11. So we learned from Redshift, basically, and continuously adding and mapping more functions. And data wrangling, unhide hidden columns. We saw a demo of that just now. And with that, over to my colleague Miguel.
Yep. Hello, I am Miguel Diaz, Senior Product Manager for Spotfire, and I'm going to show you what's new in Spotfire Server 11. Well, we added the support for OpenID Connect authentication back in version 7.8, and now in Spotfire 11, we added support for OpenID Connect single logout. This means that the Spotfire can relay the information about user logout to the external application and also act on such information from an external application. There are 3 types of single logout specified by OpenID Connect drafts, all of them supported by Spotfire. They're relying party initiated, front channel, and back channel. You can check more information about those specifications in the OpenID site. And note that these specifications can be used separately or combined altogether. Some time ago, we included config tool command config OIDC to configure authentication against one or more external providers using OpenID Connect. And now, to facilitate configuration management and automation, we added two more config tool commands: update OIDC provider to update an existing OpenID Connect provider configuration, and register OIDC client to register the Spotfire server as an OpenID Connect client with an OpenID provider. Well, we have updated the Spotfire server and Node Manager RPM packages to improve alignment with RPM packaging standards. And for example, we have reviewed permissions and ownership of RPM installed files, which are now a little bit more restricted and belong to the dedicated Spotfire user and group. Spotfire server runs as a Spotfire user instead of root, and so on. And we use now system D instead of system 5 when supported by the operating system, since system D is the new service manager used in most of the Linux distributions nowadays. We have implemented a number of web admin usability improvements. We are rethinking data flows and user flows from the admin persona. We are also using some new UI components for the table item, pagination, combo boxes, etc., etc. And the result is a more responsive, performant, scalable, and resilient web application. We have started in this release with scheduling and routing and nodes and services functionality, and there is where you will see the most visible improvements. Yeah, you can check the release notes for more details and more improvements. We have also improved scaling for streaming visual analytics in the Spotfire web player. The thing is that when working with data streaming, we need to control how often we update real-time dashboards. An easy and intuitive way to do this is by throttling how often we render the visualizations based, for example, on CPU load. And this is now configurable with a new setting, and we can show how it works with an example. In this snippet, if the CPU load is below 20%, the visualizations would be rendered as often as possible, as usual. But if the load increases over 20%, then the visualizations are rendered at most every 3 seconds, or above 40% every 10 seconds, and so on. What happens in real life can be visualized in a more simpler way with the following graph. Without throttling, the CPU would increase maybe up to 80% or more, and maybe stabilize there. With this kind of throttling configuration, the CPU would increase and stabilize around whatever you have configured. For example, around 40%, updating the visualizations only many times as you have configured per second. These are the most relevant improvements from the server. I will hand over back to Magnus. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Miguel and Thomas. So we have one feature in the developer and OEM section that I want to highlight. So we have now added the possibility to customize the welcome page. Now, this is useful for OEM partners and other customers that want to brand Spotfire as a domain or organization-specific analytics tool. The content in the welcome page can be replaced with a custom HTML file, which can contain images, texts, and links. It's also possible to customize the graphics in the login page. And all of this is done with a co-branding package. So Spotfire 11 is a mainstream release. That means that Spotfire 10.10 is still the most recent long-term support release. And on this slide, this is for you, those that are still on 10.3. These are features that you can look forward when you upgrade to Spotfire 11. So this is quite a lot of features, and I won't go through them today, but the blue ones are IDs from TIBCO's ID portal. And if you want more information about these features, you can look at what's new pages on TIBCO community. And this is a summary of all the new features in Spotfire 11 that we have just talked about. Again, more details can be found on the What's New page on TIBCO community in just a few days from now. So that concludes our presentation about what's new in Spotfire 11. We hope you found this useful, and we look forward to any feedback you may have.